planning meeting, second November planning meeting for South. Can I just ask quickly for those online, could you raise your hand if you can hear us, please? So no. Thank you. Thank you very much. Just checking the comments. We're not expecting a fire drill today, so the alarm sound.
Your microphone's off. Yeah, you sound very quiet in the room.
I'm suspicious about this one. We're not expecting a fire drill today, so if the alarm sounds, follow me out of probably two emergency exits. Meeting will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube following the meeting, so any members of the public present should be aware that they may be recorded, and if that's a problem, please let me know. Please can you switch your phones to silent for the duration of the meeting. I'll bring forward the agenda items one by one. The planning officers will then introduce the application with any relevant updates and provide a visual presentation to aid members' understanding of the context of the application. I'll then call on the public speakers to present in accordance with the public speaking arrangements, which are at the beginning of the agenda. I'll then ask members and officers if they have any points of clarification on the points raised by the public speakers, and then ask members if they have any technical questions to officers, and then we'll debate the application. Members may seek further clarification on particular points from officers regarding the application, or on points raised by speakers in the main debate through me. Officers will respond to individual questions, and then we'll take a decision by vote. The first item on the agenda is the apologies for absence. I have recorded apologies for Councillor Jenny Snell and Councillor Richard Wilkins in substituting for her. So I have an apology from Councillor Martin Wale and Councillor Jenny Kent. Are there any apologies? Super. The minutes of the previous meeting, you will have had access to these through mob.gov and then was circulated. Are there any issues with the minutes, or should I sign as a true record of the meeting?
Great.
Thank you. Public question time. We have no one registered to speak to the item, so I'll move swiftly into the first item, which is planning application 23-00606. Sorry, Councillor Campbell. You've got your hand up. Is you wish to speak?
Yeah, yes, thank you, Chair. Sorry I can't be there. I think I must have missed the declarations of interest. I just want to show declarations of interest in items number 6 and 7, application 23-00860 and 861. As I was all for this, instigating this about 14 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And my apologies, I did skip over declarations. Are there any other declarations of interest?
Yes, I used to do some work for Solar Southwest, which are item 5 on the agenda here. I no longer work for the company. I have no interest in this application itself, but just to complete this.
Thank you for that. The truth as for information. Are there any other declarations? Thank you. Okay. Well, moving on to planning application 23-00606 full land at Merrifield Lane, Hilton, Ilminster.
Thank you, Chair. This is a full application to construct a solar farm consisting of 3,380 panels, providing renewable electric sufficient to power 700 homes. This is the site. The red line shown in the committee report is not indicative of the site area for the actual solar farm, which is this part here. The red line was used to calculate the fees for the application because part of the site at the entrance will be used as a temporary car park during construction. This is Hilton to the east. This is the recreational road in this area. This is the recently completed development at Hawthorne Road, Bramble Close. This is nosing along Cops Lane. This is Merrifield Cottage. And access is taken off Merrifield Lane at this point here. Of note is the scheduled monument, which is a ground feature of rodent ponds in this area. It's located approximately half a kilometre from the site. There are World War II pillboxes located in this area, and this area. There are no heritage assets on the site. This is zoomed in. This is the farmer's access track. It's not a public right of way. Public right of way runs along this boundary here. It's an aerial view again showing the moat and ponds in this area here. Pillboxes are down the road up in here. This is the recreation yard grounds. I zoomed in a little bit and you can clearly see the farmer's access track through there. This is taken off the public rights of way records, and this shows the public right of way running along here and on the southern side of the application site. And just in here is the access it takes onto Merrifield Lane. This shows the solar panels arranged in rows. It is proposed for 2 buildings to house switching gear, and they're located just here and just here. The connection to the grid will be by buried cables along this route. Around there and connecting into the existing grid. This is the part of the development that the archaeologist has recommended a watching brief as the trenches are dug. The field has been subject to a geophysical survey, which is showing there are no significant remains. A permeable track can be created along here and up to here, which is the main entrance into the solar farm. This track will be subject to agreement with the public rights of way team. It's proposed to plant native hedging along these 2 boundaries. The northern and western boundary are screened trees and hedgerows. It's not proposed to remove or cut back any tree or hedging. The next slide shows the temporary car parking area, which is in this area here. It shows the temporary compound used during construction, which should take 19 weeks. After the construction, the ground will be returned to agricultural use. Where wash is provided in around about this location here. The proposed gate that will go across in this area here will incorporate a pedestrian access gate to replace the stile for the access to the public right of way. These are the panels and showing their construction. The height is 2.8 meters to the top of the panel, and they are separated by 5.5 meters. It is proposed to graze the land with sheep, retaining an agricultural use. This is the building inside the compound, measuring 3 meters high by 3.6 by 2.8. And it's constructed of GRP and coloured green. This is the building outside of the compound that connects the solar farm to the underground cables. And it measures 2.6 meters high by 5.3. Again, GRP construction, coloured green. There has been concerns raised that equipment can make a noise, mainly through cooling equipment, which is advised that it will be less than 35 dB. When the cooling is activated. If the committee is minded to approve the application, it suggests to include a condition that requires a noise mitigation plan to be approved prior to use to ensure that there's no undue disturbance to neighbouring properties. Fence that will go around the entire site. 1.9 meters high. These are wooden stakes and metal meshing. The cameras along the fence. Cameras are 3.6 meters high. They're located on the corners and one in the centre of the north and southern boundary. They'll face along the fence to monitor either a clockwise or anti-clockwise manner to ensure there are no breakages of the fence. They are infrared and do not require lighting. This gate here is located, as said, at the northeast corner of the site. This photograph is taken looking across the site from the gate access of the Merrifield line. Public right-of-way crosses along this line here. It's very, very faint on this bay. Then carries on along to this gap in the hedge. This is where the solar panels are going to be located in this area here. The houses in the distance are the houses along Cops Lane, with a recreation ground sitting in between. Span around a bit. Again, the public footpath runs up to just make a faint gap in the hedge there. This is the recently completed housing development and houses along Cops Lane. Just the cricket ground on the left here, Merrifield Hall on the right. Again, the new dwellings here. And the solar panels are located right at the back, past this hedge in this area here. This is taken from the recreation ground car park. And you see the hedge at the back there. The solar panels will be sitting in that area there. This is another photograph taken more centrally within the recreation ground. Again, the solar panels are behind this hedge here. There's no doubt that solar farm will be visible in the immediate area. However, given the topography of the site, long distance views are limited. It will take a number of years for the newly planted hedging to mitigate the visual impact of the panels along the public right of way. All quantities have been positive in their recommendation. Further to the report being produced, it is considered that an additional condition be added to the permission should committee be minded to approve that requires a condition survey of Merrifield Lane be undertaken prior to construction and any damage made good. The key consideration for the committee is the obvious visual impact of the panels and the aspirations of the council regarding climate emergency and the government's commitment to energy reliance and sustainable carbon-free energy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I have two speakers who are registered. The first is Joanne Williams, who's the local member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this application came to the parish council. They have made an objection, but really that's a lot of material considerations. But the one thing that I would like to comment on is the public safety. There's a lot about habitats and animals, but I think that during the construction, Merrifield Lane is very narrow, and I am concerned it is a very, very well-used dog walking lane, and people walk up and down there a lot. And you do say that any works to be agreed with the public rights of way team will be secured by a condition. I can't see a condition about the public rights of way on the paper, and I wondered if this is something please that could be put in, because if there is an accident and somebody gets hurt down there, it will be very serious, because it is a residential area. There are other houses besides Merrifield Cottage there, and a lot of people will walk up and down, and if they're not normal walkers, there will be people just going to have a look. It's inevitable, because they will be intrigued as to what's going on up there, and I don't think we've got strong enough conditioning in there. Would you please comment?
Okay. I think we'll take the speakers through and then comment. Thank you for that. The second speaker is Jonathan Benstead, the applicant.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Benstead, and this afternoon I'm here representing clients and contractors of the proposed solar farm at Ilton. Solar Southwest prepared and installed their first scheme in 2011, and since that time have designed and installed more than 500 projects. Of those, they have secured the planning consent of more than 200. Before Solar Southwest getting committed to a project, they assess the suitability of the site, and this one scores very highly on all points. Questions asked include, is there grid capacity? Where is the location of the cable network? What is the orientation of the site? Does the site have natural screening? Is there likely to be any effect on existing trees and hedges? What is the likely ecological impact? Are there flooding risks? Is there adequate access for the installation? Is there any adverse impact on archaeology? What will be the impact on neighbours and the locality? The proposals before you have been shaped to provide an efficient scheme with minimal adverse impact, and I'm delighted that this has been found acceptable by the planning officers and the Ministry of Defence. We are aware of, and of course disappointed that some objections have been raised, but in response would confirm, number one, a road condition survey will be carried out prior to commencement of development, and at completion, the condition of the road will be better than it is now. Number two, proposed equipment is acoustically insulated and will create no nuisance to any property. Number three, work will be carried out in accordance with a stringent construction and environmental management plan that will ensure the safety of people, provide pollution control, and minimise disturbance to wildlife. Number four, special measures will be taken to protect users of the footpath, and for future, access to the field will be easier as we will be providing a 2-in-1 gate, which is pedestrian friendly to replace the style that exists. Number five, the scheme provides biodiversity net gain as recommended by our consultant ecologist to meet government targets. Number six, the installation has existing hedges on both sides, and new native planting hedges are proposed on the other two, providing good screening as well as increasing biodiversity and wildlife habitat. Number seven, Somerset has declared a climate emergency, and the scheme fits very well with their adopted strategy to achieve the target of becoming carbon neutral by 2030. It will provide sufficient carbon-free electricity for around 700 homes and make a CO2 saving of more than 500 tonnes annually. I would thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak, and of course, willing to answer any questions that members may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being so brief and information. So this, if you want to respond to the speakers' points before we get into questions.
Thank you. Yeah, just to respond to the first speaker's comments, when I visited the site, I can agree that there was quite a few dog walkers going up and down the lane, and it is narrow, and yeah, it's construction traffic could potentially be an issue. There is a condition in there, the construction plan, which will ensure that banksmen control that road so that if there are dog walkers on the road, the construction traffic will be halted until they're passed through. So the safety of the pedestrians will be maintained.
This isn't you're not on the committee and this isn't debate. You're presenting as the government rules. We don't have permission for that. However, I'm sure members will follow up. Okay, members, do you have any questions? Sue?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not sure whether I'm following up on Councillor Randall Green's points, but During the by-election, I did go up and down a couple of times, up and down that lane, and I can certainly confirm it's narrow, not in the best of condition, and quite popular. You've talked, the agent has talked about putting in a road condition survey. Can you confirm, is that just a proposal or can it be added into the conditions so it is actually done? So there is a before and after, because the applicant is indicating the road will be left in a better condition. I think that probably needs to be made more explicit in the conditions. That's my first point. I also note in the conditions that you have got the standard restrictions in terms of operating hours. So particularly Sunday, Saturday afternoons and evenings, there shouldn't be any construction traffic going up there. And it should therefore be much safer for pedestrians at that point when they're most likely to use the road. My second point is on the agricultural land, grade 3, and saying that grade 3, I can't remember the paragraphs exactly, is poorer quality land. I'm rather concerned that you have actually lumped grade 3 together, when actually grade 3 is made up of grade 3A, which is considered best and most versatile, and 3B, which is not. I feel it's slightly disingenuous to lump it together in that category, and I do feel when we come to evaluate these, that we should be making it clear, are we talking grade 3A or are we talking grade 3B? Can you confirm which it is, please?
Yeah, in terms of the grading, all I have has been told it's grade 3 land. Yeah, it's quite stony and it's not particularly good agricultural land. That's all I've been told on that. Going back to your first point, I am suggesting a condition survey added in, and yeah, that will be for the committee to decide whether they want that condition put in.
Yeah, Chairman, can I come back on the agricultural land classification, because it is important.
I understand the
And I
point.
do feel that
I
it's
understand-
okay taking.
I understand the point. It's one for, I understand the point. It's one for the debate later, and other members want to actually ask questions.
Okay, that's fine, but I don't think we can just, the answer was not satisfactory.
I understand. But I think for the debate.
Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've already answered one of my questions, which is about the condition of the lane, which was mentioned by objectors. My second question, I'm not sure you're going to be able to answer, but if the chairman will allow it, the applicant may be able to answer. There are two methods of putting in solar panels. One is with metal stakes and the other is with concrete bases. Now, I would not want there to be concrete bases here for two reasons. The first is the flooding aspect, where you've got the ground no longer absorbing the water. And the second is that it makes a major ecological difference to what you can do underneath the solar panels, which will be had for discussion in a minute. So can you answer that question, or would the chairman allow us to ask the applicant if he can't?
We'll be using stakes. There's no concrete bases proposed at all. It'll be stakes within the panels there.
Can I come back to the second question? Now I know the answer to the first one. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There being stakes, can you explain to me why in the paper you talked about flooding? Because the changes to the field condition and the ability to absorb the water into the field haven't changed because you have stakes, not concrete bases.
Could you explain that again to me, please? Sorry.
Okay, the ability to the field to absorb water has not been altered by the construction. And therefore, we've got a long discussion on the paper about flooding and SUDS, which I don't believe is necessary because we haven't, if he's using stakes, we haven't changed the condition of the field.
I can confirm that the using stakes doesn't alter the ability of the ground to absorb water.
So why do you ask for a SUDS?
That's standard on applications over a certain size.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, noted. Are there any other questions? Sorry, big one, Oliver.
Thank you, Chairman. I've been involved with a few solar applications. A big one should be coming to this committee soon. And noise surveys seems to be a regular feature on these applications. I was curious to see there wasn't one done here. Does anyone know why? Or have I missed it?
Generally, these installations are very quiet. They don't make much noise at all. I have suggested, because there are a number of objections on the basis that the switching cabinets can make noise, especially when the coolant is activated on them. So I'm suggesting to the committee that we have a noise mitigation plan put in place as a condition. But generally, these units are very quiet.
Thank you. Evie?
That's the case. Mine's been answered. Thank you.
Steve?
Is it possible to consider a temporary speed limit down this lane if it's a national speed limit at the time? I don't, just asking.
One has to.
Probably not.
Just for information, based on my brief visit, I think it was very difficult to sustain any speed whatsoever on the lane. It is very, very, very narrow. I have just one question, and this is 500 metres from the threshold of runway 24 at Yeovil. I believe you have consulted the MOD. Were there any issues raised?
Yeah, you didn't raise any issues. They were quite happy with that. They've checked out the anti-reflectiveness of these solar panels, and they're quite content that it doesn't impact their operation.
thank you, Ollie. Did you have a second question?
Yes, I was going to ask if there's been any agreement or discussion with the parish council about the community benefit fund.
There's been no discussion about that at all.
Do we have any more questions? Okay, in which case I suggest we move into the debate.
Right, so I'm going to come back to the question of agricultural land classification. I don't know whether it's actually been implemented yet, but there were proposals circulating in government that developments on grade 1, 2 and 3A land would be restricted or even stopped. I don't know whether that has actually come into being yet, and that's why it's so important to differentiate between 3A and 3B. 3B is still productive, it doesn't come within that sort of A1, 2 and 3A category. In this case, we're talking a very small amount of acreage, so it probably wouldn't make a dramatic difference, unlike a very large solar panel. But I do feel it is important, and yes, you can find it out because there are DEFRA agricultural land classification maps that are available, and it shows on there. But I do know in some schemes, I think one of the West Somerset ones, that either it was the applicant or the objectors did their own independent research into what category that particular land was.
Councillor Lopez. Sorry, Councillor Lopez.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make sure there are a number of conditions put in place. The first and foremost is the height of, I don't know whether, I'm sorry, I failed to ask this earlier, whether the solar panels are going to be at low level or high level installations. And the reason I asked that question, and I should have asked it earlier, and I do apologise, is that you can raise sheep and do things under high level solar panels that you can't under low level solar panels. So we have an answer to that before I go on.
I believe that was actually,
covered in the presentation.
Sorry.
However, could you?
Yeah, the height of the panels would be, the top height would be 2.8 metres. There'll be sufficient gap underneath to allow the sheep to go in and carry on grazing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologise for not picking it up. Right. Firstly, we need to have conditions now before it leaves here that the lane will be in a better condition when they finish than what it is now. And I think that he said it wasn't yet conditioned, but we're thinking about it. So we need to firstly have.
If we could take this one by one, I think it'd be easier to go on to also spot it. So
That's right. I'm asking the committee to put a condition survey on the.
Right, I'm proposing that. I have a seconder. Well, you asked for comments, Mr. Chairman, that's all I'm making, sorry. Right, the next thing that we've got to ensure is that the up the top where they've got the transformer, we have to make sure that the building is properly soundproofed, because that is the only form of noise that you're going to get off a solar thing. And that needs to be conditioned. And then finally, we need, if I've missed this, I'm very happy to be told off again. We need to ensure that it's 45 years and not 25 years that the application is valid for, or 40 years, whichever the long level is now, because a lot of the solar plans have been coming back to us having had 25-year permissions and have now gone out to 40.
okay, you can just comment on that.
Yeah, the permission is for 41 years,
Okay,
and the 1 year is comprised of the construction period and setting up of the solar panels.
thank you.
Can I ask you to just quickly go to comment on the policy position with respect to 3A land and investment versatile as it stands at present, and possibly the various objective use.
Okay, one thing I would say that this land is not lost to agriculture. It will still have an agricultural use with sheep grazing on it, and it's a temporary use. It's 40 years is a long time, but that is not land lost to agriculture like a housing development or commercial development. That will be returned to agricultural use. I'm just trying to find out your answer for whether it's 3A or 3B. The applicant is mouthing something at me, but I can't. Do you want to ask me?
he's saying 3B.
So the applicant is saying it's 3B.
3B, the applicant is saying it's 3B, so in that case, it should have been in the report.
Okay, Richard.
Well,
yeah, just happy put the point about the banksman on the lane.
that will be included in the construction and environment management plan.
Okay, on that basis, unless there's any more people who want to talk, I will propose that we accept.
Second that.
So we have So we have councillor Wilkins proposing, councillor Braun seconding. This is, sorry, were you proposing a hand for something
I
else?
just wanted to raise a point. I'm happy to either propose or second on this one, because I don't think there's any planning reasons we can actually refuse this one on. Even though there may be sort of concerns, we're now trying to mitigate. One proposal was to have the noise mitigation plan added, even though it's insulated and all the rest of it. Because it may not always be the case, things can and do go wrong, so that covers that contingency. And also I'm curious that there wasn't any sort of community benefit ascribed to this, to whether there is a reason for that, and whether we, as a committee, can ask for that.
It wasn't proposed, and we have no planning policy to require it.
Right, okay.
Okay, as it stands at the moment, we have a half proposed proposal, but legal, if you want to come in.
I probably jumped in too soon. I was just going to say, can we clarify the proposal in terms of what were the added conditions and what have been accepted as conditions, please?
I was going to do precisely that, but I also noticed two hand shoots up in the corner. Is there some further points of debate?
Just wondered if there was any way we could put any conditions on the vehicle movement, operational times, etc. Because I noticed that the Patton Parish council board saying about the just checking that is on lines being so close to the recreational grounds and dog walkers, etc.
That will be controlled through the construction management plan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I alluded to it earlier, but I am still a bit concerned, to be honest with you. I agree with Councillor Osborne and others questioning the agricultural classification. I find it quite alarming when we come to committee and essentially just hear whispered with respect from the applicant's agent over there that it's 3B. I'm in a bit of a quandary here. I think this should have come with a visual assessment, noise assessment, and it should have come with better agricultural classification. If you look at the details, they're just aren't they? The agricultural classification is taken from a very zoomed out map, which you try and zoom in on, you can't see its size. And in previous applications I've been involved in this nature, there's been soil sampling, and it's not happened, and that concerns me.
Can I just make a broad point? We encourage members when they get planning applications that come before committee, if you're not actually served under the circumstance, please either speak to the case officer or go make a site visit. And in this particular case, I note your points about noise results and noting the show no buildings anywhere near it and a large runway that's only 500 metres away. I'd rather think that there's plenty of noise interruption in that area. And with respect to the splitting hairs over whether it's 3A or 3B, the point which the officer made was that it's still in agricultural use and that this land can be returned to unfettered agricultural use. It's a temporary application. There are no permanent changes to the land designation. So it's not being lost in the way that we normally consider the grazing application, where we place the ground under concrete and cement and dig some drains in there, and it's lost forever. As with many renewables, this equipment is placed in or on the ground and attached to it, but we're not changing the ground in the same way. So I'm a bit concerned that we're down a rabbit hole here. Richard.
Well, I was pretty much going to say what you said. I kind of went on the site visit this morning. I know the area anyway. We used to run lorries out of Belton. You're quite right in everything you just said. And to me, without knowledge of whether it's A or B, it looked like grazing land to me. So I was quite content what you said.
So I presume you have already, so you've already proposed.
Yeah, just make it clear that I want,
Could we have the officer quickly clarify the conditions that are amended as a result of this meeting, or added as a result of this meeting, please?
The two conditions are the road survey, condition survey of the road, and the noise mitigation plan for the two switching units.
Okay, do we have a second for that recommendation? Thank you very much. So proposed and seconded. Can I move to the vote on this, please? Can all those in favour please show? Yes, clearly unanimous. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, could we ask the applicant to talk to the parish council? Could we ask the applicant to talk to the parish council, please, about a benefit plan put together so that the parish council have something positive to go forward with?
I think you just did.
That's why I asked you to do it. Please.
So we can't compel, but I think
It's not
unwise. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is actually two items. You'll notice there are two applications. One of them for the council to give itself permission, which has to go to committee, and the other one is the advertising regulations permission associated with the use of the land at the Triangle Middle Street. The application reference is 23-00860 regulation 3C and 00861 advertising. Oh, Oliver, are you ready to?
I think so, just bringing it up.
Can I suggest, as we have a relatively light agenda, we have a swift 5 minute adjournment? So I know this agree. Thank you.
Sound is missing.
Okay, welcome back. The two planning applications, as I explained, are 23/0080 RBC and 23/000861 advertising. Oliver, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. So as the Chair's pointed out, the application applications for committee's consideration this afternoon relate both to a full and an advertisement consent application for a proposed large LED screen at Lands at the Triangle, which is located off Middle Street within Yeovils Town Centre. I would just provide two verbal updates with respect to updates to conditions that are set out within both of the reports. So for the avoidance of any doubt in terms of condition 4 attached to the advertisement and 5 attached to the full, the hours of operation should read Monday to Sunday inclusive rather than including, so just a minor typo there. And similarly, with respect to condition 3, which is pending to the full, there should just be inserted towards the end of the condition that operational management plan is implemented in accordance with those approved details. So the principal reason that these applications are reported to the committee this afternoon is that the applications have been made by Somerset Council. The proposals form one part of a wider package of public realm improvements, which are identified for the triangle area of the town centre, and which in themselves form part of a more extensive overall refresh scheme. So just pointing out, we'll run through the presentation. It'll be covered in a single presentation, but there are two applications that must be considered on their own merits. So there'll be 2 minutes at the end, and I'll keep it clear in terms of what we're considering for each application. So on the slide, you can see the application site, which is in red. That essentially covers the entirety of that square area, bandstand area, which is known as a triangle within the town centre. So it's dissected by Middle Street, which runs east to west. And then you've got Vicarage Street coming down from the northwest. Then South Street and Scars Lane to the south. Site lies the eastern end of Yeovils' primary shopping frontage. The site is located outside of the central area, town centre conservation area. An aerial view of that area. So this plan just shows the proposed LED screen in terms of where it was sited. It's not shown particularly well on that screen, so you can't see it very well in context, but you can see it within the application site. So it would essentially be set against an existing elevation of a building that has been occupied by Poundland. And obviously you would face then onto the central square area. I'm just to move on to the proposed plans and elevations of the screen. It will be supported on steel pole structure, displayed approximately 3 meters above ground level, and presented in a landscape format, as is generally typical for these displays. 5.1 meters wide, 2.9 meters high, and there'll be 2 speakers either side of the screen. So in terms of the use of the screen, the full element that requires planning permission is that it would be used to display a number of events, such as royal events, sporting events throughout the year. And then when not in use for this purpose, would be used for the display of advertisements, which would display on loop without sound, with images changing no more than 10 seconds. So that's the element that requires advertisement consent. So just to, I guess, put it into context in terms of where the screen would be positioned, you can see the western elevation of the building, which is occupied by Poundland. So it would be set just against that. So if we're looking east now across the side towards where the screen would be located. And then this looks in a southeasterly direction from Middle Street. The site sort of slopes gently down from west to east. Then you can sort of see a square sense of enclosure that line those 2 3-story buildings. Mixed architectural offering. And a range of uses that would be expected within such a town centre location as this. So first of all, then just run through the key considerations relating to full application. The development plan of this location comprises the South Somerset Local Plan. The National Planning Policy Framework is also a significant material consideration. So in terms of considering the principle of the development, screen for displaying broadcasting. And I set out in the report, the development is generally compatible with town centre uses. Forms part of a wide package of regenerative initiatives which are focused on the town centre. And therefore, the general principle of this is something that can be accepted given the location. In terms of siting, the design screen, again, as set out within the report, it's generally befitting of its intended function and we set against an existing building which does not possess any historical or architectural merit in which such an addition could detract from. As I've set out, the site's not located within the conservation area. There are no other heritage assets in which the scheme envisaged the development would impact adversely upon. So there have been some concerns raised with respect to the impact of the use of the proposed screen on overall amenity and public safety. Officers are mindful that the site is located within the town centre, where there are existing town centre uses and licensed night-time economy establishments. Suite of conditions are proposed, which would look to secure further details to manage any social implications of the scheme, as well as providing the requisite safeguards, which would include ensuring that the screen is not used outside the hours of 7 in the morning and 10 at night. So in terms of other specific concerns with respect to antisocial behaviour, obviously law enforcement would fall to the local police force, but nevertheless development should look to, where possible, design out crime. So there have been some existing concerns which have been highlighted by the design out crime officer with respect to loitering, congregating in this area, and the sort of associated adverse impacts of that on general amenity of the area. And obviously careful consideration needs to be given to this in the circumstance of this proposal, which actually looks to encourage footfall to this area and congregation. But when having regard to the design out crime officer's comments, a detailed operational and management plan which sets out measures for coordinating the events, screenings, in the interest of immunity and crime prevention is to be secured by a condition, and that's number 3. So as I set out in the updates, the applicant would be required to provide details of how these events would be managed, and that would need to be agreed in conjunction with other regulatory bodies, including the police and licensing, and thereafter the development would need to be undertaken in accordance with those details that have been approved by the local planning authority. So moving on to the highways impact to development, it's not considered such that would lead to any discernible distraction to vehicle users or pedestrians, which could present a highway safety concern. And that's when having regard to other illuminations when taken cumulatively within the town centre environment, so thinking about shop fronts and other associated emitters of light. But a safeguarding condition again is recommended to restrict illumination levels to those which accord with guidance that is set out by the Institute of Lighting Engineers. It's difficult to be precise on that because obviously it depends on sort of current weather conditions essentially, and the levels of lighting, whether it's day or night, etc. But that condition it provides a safeguard in that regard. As another point relating to highways, and as referenced within the report, a traffic regulation order would be required to restrict vehicular access, given that the site does actually form part of the highways extent. So essentially, it means that there are vehicular rights in terms of where that screen would be located. This is a process that falls under the Highways Act. It's a separate process, but it would need to be successfully completed prior to the development commencing. I understand that that is progressing or has progressed, but an informative is nevertheless included within the report and the recommendation to this effect. There aren't any notable ecology-related concerns, and there would be no adverse impact on any designated sites. So if sunset levels or laws and ramps are, obviously the site wouldn't increase any overnight accommodation or foul water flows. So in terms of the full application, proposal in the round is considered to be representative of a sustainable form of development and is recommended for approval subject to the conditions and the informative as set out in the report. So that concludes the full application, and I will now just run on to discuss that which relates to the display of the advertisement and this the control of advertisement regulations. It's a more streamlined process whereby, as I said in the NPF as well, the key considerations should be limited to community and public safety. So if that were not appropriate, not possible, the local planning authorities to question the need for an advertisement or consider other sort of planning land use considerations that you may otherwise consider as part of the full. So again, the proposal is befitting in terms of its design and its intended function. It's set against the existing building. It's not considered to be poorly placed as to detract from the overall amenity of the area. It's not located within a conservation area, therefore would not impact on the setting of any heritage assets. In terms of public safety, and this encompasses highway safety considerations, it's not considered such that would lead to any distraction to vehicle users or pedestrians, which could present a highway safety concern when we're having regard to other illuminations within the town centre. Nevertheless, and as commented by the local highway authority, a safeguarding condition restricting the illumination levels to those which accord with the guidance as set out by lighting engineers is also recommended for this advertisement application. The proposed screen will be fixed and it will be set against an existing building and will display static images when used for advertising. It's not considered the advert therefore give rise to any other public safety concerns. Standard advertisement consent condition is recommended, and this includes a package of safeguards. A condition again restricting the hours of use to between 7 o'clock and in the morning and 10 PM at night. Monday to Sunday inclusive is recommended. as well as that preventing any display that contain moving images, animation, video, or full motion images, or images that resemble road signs or traffic signs. So therefore, as set out within the officer report, the proposal if around is considered acceptable, for having regard to amenity and public safety considerations, and is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions as set out in the report. And the conditions are just summarised here. So firstly, the full conditions, and those relating to the advertisement consent. That concludes the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
I have one speaker registered to speak on this, which is Ian Timms, the applicant.
Thank you, Chair. I'm myself in a slightly strange position here as an applicant, but I haven't got a great deal more to add to the officer's report, actually. But just to say, obviously, this is a key element of the public square here, the triangle that's currently being constructed. In considering the positions of the screen, we have taken account of lighting, noise, and so on that's been outlined by the officer, and the conditions that are being applied or would be applied if consented are ones which we'd expect to see. We've explored other screens that have been operated in similar environments, and it is essential to control those elements, noise, lighting, etc. So we'll be working through those conditions. I think just a bit more to say in terms of the operation as well. There will be an application for a premises license to run in parallel with this consent. And that's something we've started work on with the police, which will run in tandem to the operating plan. So that is something we're exploring with them at the moment. The red area that was shown in the report would be the area that the premises license would cover. We have considered the issues around crime, and again, we've been working with the police architectural liaison officer on those aspects, and we recognise the points raised in the report and the need to further explore that. Probably the last thing to say is that if consent is granted, we would intend to install the screen in the spring, and we have been working with internal colleagues to date on an operating plan for the screen, and we will look to spread that to partners. We've had some initial discussions initial general discussions with partners in the town. And obviously, in developing a programme of activities and events, we'd look to work with all our existing partners to make that happen. I don't think I've got anything else useful to say in the application, Chairman.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions?
I'm just wondering, regarding the advertisements, there's already a screen that faces that screen. It would just look like these, we've got screens playing to one another advertising.
I think we are looking to use it for a slightly different type of advertising, obviously advertising. We are looking at the approach to that, which also needs to comply with the council's existing policies across a range of areas, but we will be looking to add sort of community adverts, which we'll be seeing on that screen, which they're generally enable. We'll be advertising local events and activities. So whilst that's not the commercial advertising that you're seeing on that screen, which is not too far distant from there. So a different type. We'd also like to mix that with commercial advertisements, obviously, so that we can make sure that the screen does wipe its face in operation in terms of costs. So it's a slightly different mix. Okay, I do understand the point. It is primarily intended though for entertainment, just we'll be able to run the advertisements as a secondary activity. If consented.
Thank you. Now I'm looking forward to bringing more people into town, different things, but it does concern me with the advertisement and also.
Okay. This is questions that sort of hot past the planning officer. Can we have the planning officer comment, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to say, in terms of, again, the advertisement consent element of it, which relates to your question, as I've set out, it's not for the authority to consider whether or not there's a need for that. It's literally just to consider those two key points, which is there any amenity concerns are there any public safety concerns? So I take what you're saying, but we wouldn't be able to refuse the application on the basis that there's one directly next door, but I take the point.
I'll come back to you in a minute. But what I wanted to ask through you is the equipment capable of displaying moving images? Is it capable, for example, of displaying broadcast?
It is, yeah, because obviously it's the same screen that would be used to broadcast events as considered through the multiplication.
I'm also conscious that that there are aspirations elsewhere. One of the things the planning condition must meet is a test of necessity. If you have an authority operated screen where the authority is both the advertising authority and in control of advertising, in control of public well-being in the widest of senses, and is also the highway authority, can I ask why we have conditions on, for example, the hours of operation and static only images? Is that evidence led? Because I'm well aware of screens elsewhere which operate outside of these hours and which contain moving images. In fact, if you go on the elevated section of the M4, you can have a moving image displayed to you while you drive at 60 miles an hour.
Thank you, Chair. No, I take your point entirely. The hours of operation is a condition which has been recommended by the environmental health team in acknowledgement that there are some residential uses in terms of first floor and the second floor accommodation. So it's not just a consideration of noise, but it's a consideration of impact of light and glare during the night. So my response to that would be that, yes, they do meet the test, but I do take it on.
I think my question was, will that be additional to the event that's going on? For example, New Year's Eve. People are out celebrating the opening of the Christmas lights, for example. People are out celebrating, and this is an entertainment space. It seems to me odd that you've asked for these, but I think residential amenity is controlled by the authority in several ways. Is it necessary to have a planning condition, or could this be part of the operational plan for the area?
I think that's one for the committee to consider. If the committee feel as though a condition restricting the hours from 7 to 10 isn't necessary and fall otherwise within the operations management plan, then fine. But it has been recommended when having regard to the fact that such a screen could present an adverse impact on community, and that's the views of officers. But as I said, if the committee are minded to come to different conclusions with respect to that condition, then that's something that can be considered.
Thank you for that. I think I saw a couple of other hands being waved in terms of questions. I've got Richard first.
Yeah, I was just going to try and clarify under the advertising exactly who is in control of that, and are there any conditions, laws regarding not only what they can display, but what they are allowed to not display if they choose to.
That is controlled by the standard advertisement condition, which sets out what can and can't be advertised, essentially. Again, mindful that it would be operated by the council. And again, in terms of the operational management condition as well, that would include details of how the screen is managed. So I think we don't have any particular concerns in terms of what would be displayed.
Thank you. Evie.
It's fine, thank you.
Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do not understand why this council, as in the unitary, is involved in running this screen. In my opinion, it should be the town council. This is the Yeovil refresh operation, and I'm completely at a loss why the actual council officers expect them to be saying what goes on this screen.
Ownership is not a planning matter, but.
I never said ownership was, I said the operations were.
Very, very slightly different, but, if you want to give a.
Yeah, I would just again reiterate in terms of considering an advertisement application, as the local planning authority, we are considering impact on amenity of the area and impact on public safety. That is all we can consider. Picture.
That's it.
Thank you. I would have thought that if there were any particular issues came out, you also have the right to apply to alter or amend conditions as time goes on. So if you find you want it for longer or for less, you can. And in terms of who runs it, there are opportunities at the moment for devolution of assets, and it will be down to Yeovil Town Council to decide for itself whether it wants to take this on or not as part of the devolution deal. What I was going to ask was, I seem to recall that there was parts of Yeovil covered by a public space order for PSPO. I can't take you remember what the initials were. And it basically sort of did restrict drinking and certain activities. And I didn't know whether it came up as far of this and whether that would be a factor in fact helping to control some of the antisocial behaviour that's referred to down there.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm not able to answer your question specifically.
Yeah, I'm talking about the PSPO, Public Space Protection Order, and it is in place until October 24, at least, I think it is. And yeah, it allows fixed penalty notices to be issued for people loitering and drinking in that area is one of the areas within it. So it could help with crime and safety in the area. Obviously, there's going to be a licensing application made, so how they sit together then is going to have to be looked at the time. But yeah, there is that could help in terms of time and antisocial behaviour.
Yeah, because I'm
That's it, there's still questions. So, and then you had a reason for asking that, we can come back to it. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm surprised that if it was covered by a PSPO, that wasn't included in the report as part of, that there already is a mitigation in place against that, you know, that allays perhaps or works with the police's concern and perhaps some of the public's concern as well.
I think there was a comment rather than a question. Okay, so I think we are beyond the point where we've got questions, so we should move into the debate. You want to lead us off? This is
I was just thinking along the lines of regeneration of town and the use of it. I think this is going to be something that's really positive for the town centre. I think it would give a focus to the town centre and hopefully bring both people and businesses in. I would like to see the PSPO looked at alongside the premises application, because you could find they're in opposition to each other, because one's going to say you don't want people loitering and drinking and the other one's going to encourage loitering and drinking. So I think it does need to be a bit well done, and I'm really pleased with that so far.
Councillor Skersney. The best. Yes. That's well best. Do you want to?
No.
I think my question has been responded to by the legal representative and the officer.
Yes, Weston. Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at Google images going back to December 2008. Clearly, this was a beautiful area beautiful part of Yeovil. I'm fully in favour of this application. I think it's part of beautifying, it's part of Yeovil again. I think we should improve it.
Okay, that should be sweet, but I'm going to muddy the waters. I think we should delete both of the condition fives because I believe the safeguards already exist in both law and our own practice. And as such, I think we are not meeting the test for a condition. Additionally, I think that those two conditions demean the benefit to the people, the regenerative benefit of this. I can foresee circumstances where you might want to, for example, join in a national televised event as part of a charity promotion, as part of the New Year's Eve celebrations, as part of some ceremony. And so you would want to actually be using the screen in a broadcast mode in conjunction with national broadcasters. I also believe that the advertising that I've seen in London is particularly effective, and even if it's a gently drifting image, the point they're using is they're catching your eye, they're drawing your attention, so they pay a premium for that. One of the things that this will do is reduce advertising revenues. And as such, we would be putting in a planning condition which would be difficult to justify to the people of Somerset, because it reduces the benefits. So I would like to make a proposal to remove both of the condition fives on both the advertisement and the planning application on the basis that they don't meet the tests for being a condition. Those are already in place. That's okay.
Thank you, Chair. I think we've got two issues here. We've got one of the events and one of the running adverts. I would be very nervous if, by removing this condition, that the adverts could be shown after 10 o'clock at night. I think you are absolutely right when it comes to events that should be the case. But I think by removing at the time, are we in danger of the adverts running too late? So that's my only point on that, Chair.
I agree that that would be harmful, but I think we're a licensing authority. We also have an operation plan that is required in this planning application. And I think that's the right and proper place to make sure relevant departments are consulted and assurance is given, because we have to safeguard residential amenity anyway. And I think the additional implications of a planning application are that you then get to revisit that without reapplying for planning, which means you have to wait for your turn in the planning cycle to come back to committee because we're a council. And I think that is an unnecessary impediment. It makes far more sense to be delegating that within the operation manual, which is already a condition.
Yeah, just a point of clarification when talking about that condition is that it is condition 5 on the full, that's condition 4 in the end with respect to the advertisement, just to be clear on that.
Sorry, I did beg your pardon. It's actually 5 on the full that I'm objecting to and 4 and 5 on the advertising, because the hours of operation are only 4. But the inability to place, for example, any incidental views of a traffic sign in a TV picture would contravene 5. And so I think it's already been explained to us by the officers that they've carefully cited this, so it's not likely to be in the view of a motorist. But in any case, we have a duty to continually consider that matter. And were somebody to be putting up, for example, a road safety advert, I'm sure the Homeless Department would probably want it to be in the view of the public. So, I just think that that's also controlled by the legal duties of the council that is a Homeless authority. So I stand slightly amended. So it's 5 and 4 and 5 to the child proposing that we don't put forward. Councillor Osborne.
Yes, it's an interesting point you raised, councillor. But I wonder if the officer could enlighten us how you arrived at the hours
at the hours that you did in terms of time restriction, 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock. How were those arrived at? What was the evidence base?
Thank you, so that's set out within the supporting statement in terms of the hours of operation. It is then just that there is a clause that it may also be used during special events such as New Year's Eve, but generally it would be said between the hours of 7 in the morning and 10 p.m. at night, and therefore that was used to inform the condition in this regard. But also going back to my previous point in terms of the environmental health consideration of the application, they concurred with those hours and recommended a condition to that effect.
No, just some clarification from legal here. My understanding is that we have the duties irrespective of whether there's a planning application with a condition on it to safeguard those amenities. Is that correct? Okay, let me rephrase. My intent was to avoid unnecessarily going back through planning cycles when there's already a control on the process. We have a management plan that can also contain exactly the same hours and exactly the same advice. But were we to want to actually vary things, for example, opening the events, late night events in that amphitheatre area, then that would be being controlled through the management plan rather than the planning process. And we would be unable to even consider them because we wouldn't have had planning permission to do so. Whereas we can have a licensing view that it's all right to do it once. That's the difference. We don't have to come back and re-apply. Would you like to comment?
Yeah, so I can confirm that. So if you have the planning condition, obviously anything outside of those hours would be a breach of the condition, and action could be taken if it was expedient to do so. But and if that wanted to be, if you wanted to, the applicant wanted to change that, yes, they had to come through a planning process to do so. Whereas, yeah, if you had it under the management plan, these things can be agreed more easily outside of the formal planning process by making an application.
I'm going to be really honest, my head's spinning right now. Can I just have some clarification? So if someone were to want to advertise on this board, they would have to go through a licensing committee, is that correct? I really don't understand licensing, frankly. Someone help me out here.
No, the point is that we're already considering whether the board could be used for licensing. My proposal is to take the planning impediments off that allows the licensing system to work, and indeed the environmental health system to run unimpeded. Because at the moment, planning permission is so limited, it's an absolute cut-off. Yeah. It would have to come back to committee in order to actually vary that, unless officers were convinced that they could get away with a non-material amendment to a condition. No, it would have to go back to committee actually under other rules.
In which case, Joe, I would be very happy with your recommendation to remove them and would second you. Thank you. Debate is over.
Yeah. I'm just going to try and explain that a little bit differently. It'd be a bit like applying for TENS, I guess. So you could have these rules, and then if you want to operate slightly outside, then you could do that by a TENS through the licensing department, rather than having to put in for a change to the planning application. So it'd be a much simpler and expedient way of doing it.
May I ask, for those who don't know what SENS means?
Sorry, my apologies. Like at my phone work. Temporary event notice.
Yeah, just because you look like you're going forward, to just come in here and say we're going to vote separately on this application and make sure that we've got each thing that might be deleted, if you're going to delete conditions or add them or whatever, in front of members before they take that vote. Thank you.
Thank you. So So the proposal before us is the first vote on an amendment, and I would suggest we start off with the amendments on the full planning application, which has been proposed and seconded, which is to remove condition 5 for the reason that it's actually not meeting the test for a condition. It's not necessary, there are other controls, and this was the hours of operation. Can I have a show of hands of those in favour of the amendment? That's unanimous.
Oh, was there a second to that? Oh, sorry, I didn't. Okay, thank you.
And so if I could ask for a show of hands on the application, the full application as amended. Those in favour? And so moving to the advertising application, the proposed amendment, which we're voting on first, is to remove conditions 4 and conditions 5 for the same reason that they don't exist for a condition, they're controlled by other means. So thanks for those in favour, please.
Second.
Yes, again, unanimous. And finally, the advertising consent as amended. Those in favour, please. Again, unanimous. Thank you very much. I appreciate your forbearance with that. Hopefully, we've significantly improved the development. That concludes our business for the day. Sorry, committee has just asked to note the appeal. Thank you. And thank you for your forbearance.